They say some stories do not sleep. They stay awake even when the village is quiet, when the fires are low and the night insects begin their slow song. The elders speak in soft voices. They say there are souls that do not rest when the body is gone, souls that return again and again, wearing new skin but carrying old memories. In this village, people believe time can repeat itself, that a life once lived can knock on the door of the present, and when it does, the people feel it in their bones, even if they cannot explain it. There is one story the women whisper the most, a story about a bride whose wedding songs never reach the morning, a bride who smiles, who dances, who is loved, and then disappears before the sun can rise. No one agrees on how it began, no one agrees on why it happens, but everyone agrees on one thing. When she is born again, the village always knows. Amani and Nia met when they were still children, long before they understood love. Their parents decided their future for them, as was the way of the village. When they were old enough, they were married quietly, without celebration. At first, life was gentle. They walked the land, shared meals, and learnt each other's silence. Years passed and still no child came. The village noticed. The whispers began. Nia prayed in the mornings, her voice low and careful. At night, Amani held her hands and said nothing because words had failed them both. Every month brought hope and every month carried disappointment away. Time moved slowly in their home. Days felt long, nights felt longer. Then one evening, without warning or sign, Nia felt something change inside her. Not pain, not fear, just a quiet knowing. When the healer confirmed it, Nia wept softly and Amani lowered his head in gratitude. The village celebrated, but not fully. Some joy was mixed with caution, as if they feared hoping too much. When Nia gave birth, the night was strangely calm, and the child did not cry at first. She simply breathed, and in that silence, something old seemed to return. Amaka was born just before dawn, when the sky was neither dark nor light. The room was quiet, too quiet for a birth. When she came into the world, she did not cry. The women looked at one another. The healer waited. Then Amaka took a soft breath. It was a slow breath, gentle and calm, as if she had been here before and was simply returning. Only then did a small sound escape her lips, not a cry, but a whisper of life. The elders who came to see her said nothing. They watched her closely, their eyes searching for something they could not name. There was no sign of illness, no mark of danger. Still, a rain settled in the room like a thin fog. As her daughter grew, she remained different. She was a quiet child, rarely startled, rarely afraid. Her beauty appeared early, but it was not loud or demanding. It was the kind that made people stop and stare without knowing why. She watched more than she spoke. She listened more than she asked. Sometimes she smiled at things no one else could see. The villagers did not fear her, but they did not fully understand her either. As the years passed, something strange began to happen. People started seeing Amaka looked familiar, not in a simple way, like a child resembling a parent, but in a deeper way that made voices lower and eyes linger. She looks like someone we once knew, the elders whispered. They spoke of old faces long gone, of smiles they remembered from their youth, of movements, the way Amaka tilted her head, the way she walked, the way she laughed softly into her hands. Some swore they had seen her before. Others felt it in their dreams. Amaka herself began to dream of places she had never been, of wedding songs she had never learnt, of hands she did not recognize, yet somehow missed. She would wake with her heart full and heavy at the same time. When she asked her mother about these dreams, Nia told her they were nothing, just the mind wandering in sleep. But Amaka knew better. Sometimes when she passed through the village, she felt eyes on her, not with anger, not with fear, but with recognition, as if she was a memory walking in flesh. And though no one said it aloud,
A quiet question began to grow. Had Amaka lived before? As Amaka grew into a young woman, many men began to notice her. Some admired her beauty, others were drawn to her composure. They came with gifts, with promises, with strong words meant to impress. Amaka listened politely. She smiled when expected, but her heart stayed quiet. She did not rush toward love, nor did she push it away. It was as if she was waiting for something she could not name. Soon, the village grew restless. Too many men wanted her, and jealousy began to rise. To keep peace, the elders chose an old tradition. A wrestling contest would be held. The drums would sound softly at sunset, and the strongest man would earn Amaka's hand. On the day of the contest, the air felt heavy. Men wrestled in the dust, their bodies tense, their breath sharp. Amaka watched quietly from a distance. When a winner was declared, the village cheered. They turned to her. Amaka lowered her eyes and nodded. She did not say yes from love. She said yes because the path had already been chosen. The wedding was calm and beautiful. Lamps glowed softly, and songs floated gently into the night. Amaka smiled. Her husband held her hand. Everything appeared as it should be. When night deepened, they were led to their room. Candles flickered along the walls, their lights moving slowly across the floor. The door closed behind them with a quiet sound. No one heard laughter. No one heard fear. The night passed without a scream, without a cry, without struggle. By morning, the village stirred as usual, but when the door was opened, silence filled the air. Amaka and her husband lay by themselves, their faces calm, their bodies untouched. They looked as if they were sleeping. There were no wounds, no signs of poison, no marks of violence. Their hands rested peacefully, as though they had simply chosen not to wake. The elders searched for answers. The healer shook his head. Nothing could be found. Nothing could be named. Grief swept through the village, followed closely by fear. Days passed in mourning. The village tried to return to its routine, but the air felt thin, uneasy. Then, without warning, the chief's wife gave birth. When the child was brought into the light, the room went still. She had Amaka's face, the same eyes, the same quiet breath. The elders exchanged glances, but said nothing. The child was raised with care, with love, with celebration. As she grew, people admired her beauty, just as they had admired Amaka's. And once again, they felt that strange sense of knowing her. She feels familiar, they said. Years later, she married, and just like before, the morning came with silence. She was found beside her husband, peaceful and lifeless, with no sign of harm. The village did not cry out this time. They did not search for answers. They already believed they knew the truth. The story was no longer a question. It had become a warning. After the second bride died, the village stopped asking questions. Grief slowly turned to fear, and fear needed a name. They began to say Amaka was cursed, that her beauty carried death, that her soul did not belong to one lifetime. Mothers pulled their children closer when the story was told. At night, warnings were whispered like prayers. Do not follow her path. The elders who once searched for answers grew silent. It was easier to believe in a curse than to admit they did not understand what they had witnessed. Soon, the name Amaka was spoken carefully, not with sadness, but with caution. Her memory changed shape. She was no longer a woman who died. She became a lesson. No one remembered her laughter, only her ending. And so the village sealed the story, not with truth, but with fear. Many years later, the world had changed, but the village had not. When the child was born, the midwife froze. The baby lay quietly, breathing softly, her eyes open. She had the same face, the same stillness. Her name was Luma. No songs were sung, no drums were played. The women exchanged uneasy looks and stepped back. The elders did not come to bless her. No one celebrated her arrival. She has returned, someone whispered. Luma's mother held her tightly, but even her arms could not shield the child from the cold distance that filled the room. From the very first day, Luma was watched, not with love, but with fear. As she grew, doors closed softly in her path. Laughter stopped when she entered the room. Children were pulled away from her side. She had done nothing wrong, yet the village had already decided who she was. Luma grew up carrying a name she did not understand. People watched her as if waiting for something to happen. Every smile she gave was questioned. Every quiet moment was feared. She learned early to walk alone. At night, her dreams were heavy. She dreamt of weddings she had never attended, of songs she did not know, yet somehow remembered. She woke with tears she could not explain. Sometimes sorrow filled her chest without a reason. A deep sadness, old and patient, like it had lived many lives before hers. She asked herself the question the village would not ask aloud. Was she cursed, or was she simply carrying echoes of a past the village refused to face? When she looked into water, she saw her own reflection, but behind it she felt other eyes, other lives watching quietly, not angry, not cruel, just present. Perhaps Amaka had returned, or perhaps the village had created a story so strong that it shaped every life that followed. And in that quiet space between fear and truth, Luma waited. Luma grew older and nothing happened. No wedding night, no man came, no sudden tragedy followed her steps. And yet the village never relaxed. They continued to watch her, waiting for the story to repeat itself, waiting for proof that their fear had meaning. But all they saw was a quiet woman living a careful life. Sometimes, Luma stood alone at the edge of the village, listening to the wind. It carried voices that felt old but not cruel. Voices that did not ask her to harm, only to remember. She wondered if Amaka had truly returned, or if Amaka had never left at all, living only in the minds of those too afraid to let go of the past. Perhaps the deaths were never a curse. Perhaps they were a mystery the village refused to face. Or perhaps some souls are meant to walk more than once, not to destroy, but to be understood. No elder ever answered these questions. No spirit appeared to explain the truth. Life moved forward, slow and uncertain, and so the story remained unfinished, because some stories do not end. If this story stayed with you, like, share, and subscribe for more timeless tales that refuse to sleep.